Hi, welcome back to Rüniverse. I'm Andrew, and in this video I want to do a quick deck tech for this Fire Ruby deck that I've been using against another deck that I have built, but this one has been winning almost every game, so I think the other one's going to need some tweaking, and for now let's just take a look at what's been doing so well for this deck. Also, before I get into it too much, I want to mention that I recently did get the Game Crafter foils, and I got a sample product for Rüniverse called the Collector Booster, which is going to have 90 cards, 18 of which are foils for about $20, and hopefully they're going to be able to be used for drafting. Unfortunately, my pack opening video for that was corrupted, and I'm not going to be able to share it with anybody. So this is my first video since getting the foils, so I at least want to show off a couple of them. So here you can see this foil card. Do this, I think. But anyway, that's you can see the shininess of that. It looks pretty good, and that's the only one in the deck, but I do have a couple others off to the side that I can show you, just so you can see how these foil cards look pretty sweet. Alright, so let's take a look at the deck. So I guess a good place to start would be just with the mages. So you see a lot of the Ruby mages here, which is the basic. Basically, if you play Ruby, you're probably going to start out with a core of the 12 Ruby mages. However, I have swapped out 2 of them for these 2 Trine mages here. So one thing about playing an aggressive deck in Rüniverse is that it doesn't make a ton of sense to have bond gifts, because if you're winning, they're not going to trigger for you, and if you're playing aggressively, then you're probably going to have a lead in terms of attacking and breaking bonds, which means I have taken out 2 of the bond gifts from among the Ruby mages. Now I did keep one of them. I kept in Ifurian because he is a fire mage, and we do care about fire here, so we wanted to keep that focus and just switch out the other 2 bond gift mages, and we went for 2 Trine gift mages, which have the gift that they attack all enemy creatures for 2. So we switch out for Toby and Mayo, and when they trigger, they're going to hopefully take out some of our opponent's guards or something like that, or small creatures. And so that's the mages. And since Trine mages can play Ruby cards, we don't have any problems playing all of our cards. So that's how we get started. And then we can get to, I guess, the main core of the deck here. So I did want to build around Kittle, Flarager, and Sabraze. So I have this full evolution chain, the level 1, level 4, and the level 5. So if you evolve Flarager into Kittle, it will only cost 3. So you can play Kittle on turn 1, and it can attack as a level 3, just in case that matters. But hopefully not too long later, you'll be able to evolve into Flarager for 3 power, and that will give it Deft, which means Flarager will actually be able to attack for 6 without taking any damage in return if it takes out the creature that it hits. And then if you pay 1 more power, you can evolve Flarager into Sabraze, because 5 reduced by 4 is just 1, and then it's going to have all those abilities as long as it keeps those Vim underneath. And the Brutality ability is really powerful. We'll get into that in a minute, but the Fire Vim and Brutality is really lets Sabraze be a powerhouse even if it's not evolved. And it's worth mentioning this is the normal version of Sabraze, if you're not familiar with the Rüniverse alternate card version. So here we've got the standard and the star variant version of Kittle. And then this version here is the Inferno variant, which is only found as a randomized result in the Infernal's solo deck. So I was actually lucky enough to pull Infernal Sabraze. But functionally they're all the same, it's just a matter of collecting the cool aesthetics. Speaking of which, here is a pixel promo of Lurching Raptor, which you have a chance of getting in the Deluxe 8 starter. But with that out of the way, that's just an explanation of why some of the cards look different. But let's move on. So that's the core, is these pretty powerful and aggressive creatures, especially if you can evolve them. Lurching Raptor is the special kind of non-fire aspect of the deck. It's just an aggressive creature for 2. And then flare modes, we have as a common, which can often be kind of weak, but if you're able to have one of the 3 fire mages evoke a flare mote, it can be very strong because you get a flame counter and it attacks for at least 1 damage, which can knock out a guard for the turn or possibly even take out a creature. And that's why we want to make sure to have all 3 of our fire mages. So then we've got some more fire cards in the main deck. We have Ember Boar, level 1 that attacks for 1, but it can use its ability. If you sacrifice the boar, it'll attack for 2. So it can potentially just attack immediately and just you use it as Zodo or a heat, which we'll get to now, I suppose, but it's just a spell, evokes for 1 and attacks for 2. So sometimes it takes out a creature, sometimes it just takes out a guard to let you get in and break a bond. Flame Tusk Boar is a really powerful uncommon. It only costs 2 and it's level 2 and it has Lash 2, so it immediately attacks for 2 and again taking out small creatures or just taking out guards. And this deck's really good at taking out guards, which means it can be really annoying to play against because you can play all the big creatures you want, but if your opponent can take out your, make your guards stop guarding and then just attack your bonds directly, you're going to have a ton of creatures in play and a ton of cards in your hand, but you're going to lose the game anyway because they're able to just go straight for the bonds. And then Immolate, it can be a little bit pricey with the cost of 3, but it's going to give you a flame counter and then it's going to attack for usually a big chunk of damage. I mean, at minimum 4, but sometimes 5 or 6. And you can use it to take out big creatures, or again, just take out a bond. So that's kind of the main deck. That's what's going on in there. It's worth pointing out that this uses the same number of rarity pips as a standard booster deck pack. But of course, this is a much more powerful deck than a standard booster deck pack because it's built to be so synergized. But just like a booster deck, it's got the same number of rarity pips. So we went a little bit higher on uncommons. So we only have 2 rares rather than 3, but the uncommons are a little bit higher, weighted a little bit higher, and we end up having the same number. I think, forget the number, it's like 27 rarity pips. So if you're doing a point buy game, this is kind of a low power deck in terms of point buy, but it's still pretty strong at that point buy value. So the last thing to go over here is the Dream deck. So I've laid it out just in terms of lowest rarity pips and lowest cost over up to the highest. So we've got a couple simple cards that have no rarity pips because these are the neutral cards from kind of the starter Dream decks, although I have a star variant Grum here. But Ether Spike is a really good option, no rarity pips. So when you, in case anyone's forgotten, when you Dream, you're going to flip over random cards from the shuffled deck until you reveal 3 or more rarity pips. So flipping Grum or Ether Spike is basically a free flip, and it's kind of a free card when you Dream if you hit one of these. So even though Grum is not a very powerful card, it is kind of like a free draw if you invest that 2 power into getting a level 2 creature into play. And then a level 1 to just take out a guard can be really strong, especially for this deck as well. Then we've got a few commons, so there's only going to count 1 rarity pip against your Dreaming, and they're also really cheap, so when you flip them you can definitely afford to evoke them and you don't have to worry about losing potential card advantage by not being able to evoke all the cards that you Dream. But Egg of Endless Magma is another fire card, and its ability basically gives a creature the ability to attack right away as long as the egg has been around. Reinforced can give itself as Vim to a creature, which synergizes with Sabraze, but can be good with any of the creatures. And Aggressive Urge gives creatures the ability to attack a little bit more aggressively, both because this is a Vim and because it lets them deal more damage. Then we've got a few uncommons. Inspire lets a creature attack right away. It can be a great surprise to hit off a Dream. Burning Stare makes all the enemy creatures stop guarding at one of the locations. And it's also a fire card. And then we also have this fire card, Penterruption, which costs 5 to evoke, but it can ignore guards, or can take out guards, or can take out multiple creatures by dividing 5 damage among them. So it's a pretty versatile card if you can invest that 5. And we've got a couple rares, which means if you flip this as the first card of your Dream, you stop, and you're only going to get the 1 card, so they better be good. Burning Dragon is kind of a standby. It costs 4. It doesn't do much when you first play it, so that 4 can be a little hard to swallow, but its assault ability lets it attack multiple times and take out a bunch of creatures, so if you get it going, it's very strong. And Fireform is also extremely strong. and plays into the fire theme of the deck by letting you collect fire counters, or the flame counters, and it also makes the mage that it's on pretty hard to defeat, because battle mage means that you have to deal damage equal to the battle mage level in order to take out the mage and break a bond. But that's kind of the defensive use. The aggressive use is just you trade off attacking with, or making power with the mage and evoking things in favor of just attacking with the mage as though it were a creature, and you get an extra attacker in that way, and it can get to a pretty high level if you collect the flame counters. So I mentioned fire a lot. The main reasons fire matter is, collecting flame counters means fire form is going to be stronger. Your immolates are going to hit harder, if that matters. Of course, you've got the fire mages to make sure that the flare mode's going to happen, and its ability is going to trigger and give you more flame counters. But probably the biggest reason you want a lot of fire cards in the deck is the Sabraze. So whenever a fire card is put into your discard pile, if it wasn't Vim, it becomes my face down Vim. So for example, let's say you play this and you also then immediately evoke a Heat. Heat is a fire card, so when it's put into your discard pile after it resolves, it's going to become Sabraze's face down Vim, and you'll just slide it underneath. And then Brutality says you can discard one of Sabraze's Vim to untask it, so you could then immediately discard that Heat. It won't become his Vim again because it was Vim, but you discard that, and that will untask the Sabraze, and it can attack right away. So let's say you attack right away. You could even follow that up with an Immolate, which will then become his Vim, and then you could discard it and untask him and attack with him again. So he can attack multiple times per turn as long as you give him plenty of fire fuel. And of course, if you evoke a Kittle and then evolve it into a Flarager and later evolve it into a Sabraze, well, he's got a couple of them right there to work with. And I was playing against my friend, and he even had a Sabraze that he'd been attacking with multiple times over the course of a couple turns, and at some point it kind of ran out of fire, and I had a big creature as a level 6. My level 6 had taken 1 damage already, so what he did is he played another Sabraze at the same location, attacked my level 6 with his level 5 to finish off my level 6, although his Sabraze then died. But since Sabraze itself is a fire card, it became face down Vim for his new Sabraze, which was then able to use Brutality to attack immediately. So Sabrazes can even feed off of each other. So that's pretty much the key card of the deck, although it can win without that pretty easily as well. There's a lot of other fiery stuff, a lot of getting rid of guards, taking out potential blockers, and just making a lot of attacks and breaking the bonds. So I hope you enjoyed this overview video of this deck, this fire deck for Ruby, and stay tuned for more. I've got another deck that I might do a deck tech on. It might need some more tweaks. Hopefully I'll get to feature some more foils and the collector boosters soon. So thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.